All right, I've been looking forward to this one. Two-time PGA Tour winner, Ping staffer Viktor Hovland. Viktor, thanks for talking gear with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So you're Norwegian. Ping founder Carsten Solheim is Norwegian. I'm curious, how big is Ping in Norway?
Yeah, obviously golf is not the biggest sport in Norway, but I'd say you'll see a lot of Norwegian golfers playing with the Ping clubs, especially having Carsten being from Bergen in Norway.
Right.
It's one of the bigger cities, so I think it still has some history still in the country.
So I remember talking to the head of tour for Ping, I guess former head of tour for Ping, Chance Gosby, and he recounted a story to me of 2019 at the Masters. They're sitting there having lunch. John Solheim's there. He's there. Christian Pena, head of tour now for Ping. And you walk up, and they talked about this interaction. It was just kind of casual, but it made a huge impact on them in wanting them to kind of pursue you as you were turning pro. Do you remember that interaction at all? Did it have any sort of impact on you, like just kind of casually talking to the Ping guys?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the practice rounds before the tournament, and so number one, you have that first tee shot, and to the right of it, there's a bunch of tables, and I saw them sitting over there, and I just briefly met Chance, and I've seen Christian Pena around a little bit, but never met John. And I had Coach Alan Bratton on the bag, and he's pretty familiar with those guys. And he just said, "Hey, we should go up and say hello to those guys." And yeah, we did. It was nice to chat with them, and it was a good start to a good relationship.
So your first event as a pro, U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, and I was told that mere hours before you're getting ready to tee off, you throw new Ping gear in the bag. Were you surprised by how quickly you were able to acclimate to the new equipment? Were you anticipating putting it in play that quickly?
Yeah, so I think I showed up to the week with the eye blades, I think.
Right.
So I had full irons of eye blades, was still playing my old driver at the time, and then kind of as I went through the week, I think I put in the I-210s in the shorter irons, so I had wedge till 7 iron in the I-210s, and then the eye blades in the longer irons. So that was one modification that I made for the week. And then I'd kind of been going back and forth with the TaylorMade driver at the time and the Ping driver. Christian Pena was there that week, and we kind of did some more testing. And yeah, it ended up literally Wednesday night. After I played the practice round without the Ping driver, I just said, okay, it's going in the bag.
Right.
And yeah, US Open week, I drove it awesome.
Have you always been able to acclimate that quickly to new equipment? Is it just, I know some guys, it takes them longer to kind of get comfortable with something. Have you always been a guy where it's been like, look, if it works in testing, I'm good putting it in the bag pretty quickly?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't do it unless I didn't think it would be better and it wouldn't help me.
Right.
So I think if I see in practice, or I mean, it could just be on the driving range, if it just feels good and I could see it already performing better or different in a way that I like, that's enough for me to just kind of convince myself that, okay, this is going to work, and I'll put it in. If you're still like, yeah, I can see this is better, but I'm still hesitant, that's kind of where you're going to have some issues. So you just kind of have to commit to it.
So I talked to Ping Tour rep Kent Notes, and he said that you really enjoy the testing process. He said you just like, you seem to have fun with it. Have you always enjoyed testing and kind of tinkering with new gear?
I wouldn't say like enjoying the testing itself. I think it's,
I know it's got to be rigorous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say it's more the pursuit of just trying to find something that's better. Just finding an edge that it's like, okay, I didn't have this shot before, but with this club, and if we tweak it like this, I can actually do this shot better. So I think it's just just the pursuit of trying to get better. I think that's cool, and the stuff that they can do with those clubs, it's pretty unbelievable.
So when you're working your way into a new driver, let's say Ping G425, what are you like weighting? What's more important to you, dispersion or distance when you're testing?
I'd say obviously it's a combination of both. One thing that I personally noticed with that driver was that at the time when I was kind of testing both, I I had a little spinnier ball flight, and the G425 kind of brought the spin down a little bit, so I was able to get more yards. Now that doesn't mean that it's going to work for everyone, but that's what it did for me. And at the time, again, I had a little bit of an overcut, and at the time I kind of wanted to see a little draw, and for me that driver had a little bit biased towards the little draw. So I thought, this is a slam dunk, and it's going right in the bag.
So I know you tested 47 and 48 inches. Phil wins with 47.9, 1/16 under the legal limit. Do you think about it at all? Do you ever go, maybe I should go back and try and test it again? I know you had kind of worked with it. Maybe it didn't work out. Does that kind of play into whether you test it again in the future?
Was that what he used now at the PGA?
Yeah, so
really?
he used 47. Wow. Yeah, he used just under 48 inches
to
win. I know.
That's pretty wild. Yeah, so I think originally what I had was 44 and 44 and a half, I think. So pretty short driver. And then I started just messing around a little bit and just added another inch. So I think mine is like 45 and 3/4 now.
Okay.
I believe. And I just picked up a lot of speed. That it was like, even if it would have been uncomfortable, can't really, I kind of just have to try to make it work because the speed increase was so significant.
Right.
So then it kind of got me going, well, what if I had another inch and another inch? So that's why I ended up with, I had a 47-inch driver and a 48-inch driver, and Kenton and I were testing these out on the driving ranges at some of these tournaments, and I got a little bit faster, and the dispersion on the range wasn't that bad. But again, on the driving range, you're going pretty hard at it,
right.
And there's a lot of these courses where, speed's important, but you just got to hit like a low one and flight it out there and try to hit the fairway. Yeah. And I didn't feel like I had those shots with those clubs.
So you're coming back from Kiowa, a golf course where I know a lot of players had to kind of adjust their setup, or at least some of them thought that it would maybe give them an edge. How much are you adjusting your equipment setup throughout the year to kind of fit the golf course?
I'd say I'm in a pretty good spot right now with my clubs. That might change next month, next week. I don't really know, but if I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing, I don't really see that I need to change a whole lot. Obviously, if there's new stuff coming out, or Kenton has an idea that would work for me, I'd be open to obviously try that. I try to keep an open mind of new things, but at the same time, I'm pretty stubborn to change. I gotta see that it's better, and I gotta test it, and I gotta make sure that it is better. Yeah. But I'm pretty happy with my stuff right now.
So I know you can't pull back the curtain completely because they're just only a tour-only product, but I know you have the I-59s in the bag, or at least for a certain part of your iron set. What can you tell us about what testing was like with those, and what did you see that made you put them in the play pretty immediately?
Yeah, so Kenton again came out here to Carson Creek, and we did some testing. Because at the time I'd played those I-210s, which is it's a bigger cavity on it, and but they look great when you're standing over it, and they have obviously the forgiveness in them is great, but I do kind of miss the little more blade look,
right.
Of the irons, and the blueprints are just a little too bladey for me.
Okay.
They're a little too small, so the I-59s for me were just a really good middle ground. And as we just went through the bag, the 5s and the 4 irons just weren't quite as forgiving as the I-210s for me. So that's when I kind of wanted to do a mix set.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I have kind of the bladier look in the shorter irons, to then go from the bladier look to the I-210s and the longer clubs, it was almost too big of a change. So that's when I put in the I-blades from 6 to 4. So we kind of went a little full circle on there, but I'm really happy with the new irons.
I got to thank you because you gave us tons of content with your mix sets. And it's interesting though, because you've used some unconventional ones. You know, maybe players would think of some of the irons that you use more towards the bottom as being a bit more forgiving that you might use towards the top. And then I know that you kind of flip-flopped it at times. What was that process? What were you looking for? And also, do you have to really be mindful of your loft gaps as you're kind of going through those changes?
Yeah. I don't try to be too, get too caught up with the lofts and the numbers and everything. For me, it comes all down to how they're flying. And that's kind of just how I try to evaluate them. And at the time when I was turning pro and I had the I210s in the shorter range of my irons, and then the I blades in the longer ones, where you would maybe think that would be switched.
Right.
I just felt like I was launching the I210s a little lower than the I blades in the shorter irons. And with the shorter irons, I've always liked to flight it down a little bit because that's how I feel like I get the most control. And since the I blades for me launched a little bit higher, I decided to put those in the longer longer part of my irons so that I could get that extra launch to stop it on the greens with the longer club. So it's just trying to find the right flight that fit for me.
Kenton mentioned that to you the most important spec is lie angle. He said you can do a lot of things. You know, they can give you a club that maybe wouldn't fit you, but you can get into it. But if the lie angle's off, that's kind of the biggie for you. How often do you get your lie angles checked on your irons?
Not crazy often,
right?
Because I know they're probably in a pretty good place. I would hope, but it's obviously being a short guy, I can't really have upright clubs. If I have upright clubs, it just kind of makes me stand up more, and I got to lift the hands, and it just does not look good. I wanted to just naturally let my arms hang and kind of see the club face or the club just laying nicely on the ground. Yeah. So if that doesn't look right, it just it messes up the whole feel of trying to hit a good shot. So yeah.
I know you put a Glide Forge Pro wedge in the bag. What's the testing process like for you for wedges? I know tour pros have incredible hands. Touches. I mean, do you have to make a lot of adjustments? Is it just simply they hand you a wedge and you just kind of start working on different shots? What's that process like?
A little bit. I don't go super hardcore into the testing process.
Okay.
For me, it's like with those wedges, for example, they had a very different head shape to it. For me, they looked a little similar to other club manufacturers.
Okay.
In terms of wedges, and I just noticed immediately that when I put the ball in the rough and I would hit full wedges, the launch would come down a little bit because it had way more spin than the other wedges, I thought. And I was just able to flight them down, and when you can flight your wedges down, you can have a lot better distance control. So that's one of the things where, when I already see that improvement in just a couple of shots, yeah, I'm like already sold. Yeah. I don't have to go through a very extensive testing process.
So you have a putter in the bag. It's PLD Hovland. Mm-hmm. I don't know very many pros out on tour who have their name on their putter. I know it's a one-off. Can you kind of take me through the process of building a putter like that? Are you testing a whole bunch of different heads in hosels? What was it like to kind of get to that final version with Ping?
So gone through some kind of tailor-made counterbalance putters in the past. In school, that's what I was putting with. And obviously when I went to change with Ping, I just really liked that look of the putter. We made one adjustments. We put because there's a line on the putter obviously, but we put that on the top as well, so the two lines kind of match together.
Right.
So that's one adjustment that we made, but we overall kept the same head shape just because that's what I was used to. And obviously the milled insert in that putter has a little different feel to it, and I much prefer it. You can actually, instead of the ball kind of melting on the face, you can kind of feel the ball a little bit, and I feel like it's improved my speed a little bit. So again, nothing super crazy, but just kind of told them what I wanted, and they come back with a couple of options, and I say, okay, yep, this is it, and just go with it from there.
Had you used that alignment aid, the two lines on top? Had you used that one before you had it on the Ping putter?
So I've had different putters. one putter would, for example, have only the top line,
Right.
and then the next one wouldn't have the top line, but kind of the bottom line.
Ah.
So that's where I just like, you know, suggested, hey, can we just put him on both tops and just make it match? So that was the first putter that I did that with.
So at Ping, I know they have a putter lab, and they have a combine that they can put pros or amateurs, whoever comes through there, and it's 5 putts. And it gives you a handicap rating based on your stroke and the roll. You have the highest score. Did you know that? And 2, when you go back there, do you ever check to see if you're still at the top of the list?
Yeah, so I haven't been there too many times, but I did remember doing a fitting there, and I think I tied the high score.
Okay.
But since I was the last one to tie it, they just put my name on top, so they were being nice to me there. No, it's a cool little way they custom fit the putters, and I've always had a nice stroke, and as we went through different putters, it was cool to see the changes in kind of that metric depending on which putter you were putting with.
Right.
So I thought that was a neat process, and I don't know if it's been beat.
I can't imagine. Sure. It was like plus 5.7. That's a crazy high score.
It was pretty good, but hey, someone might be standing there long enough and try to beat it. Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, it was a cool one.
Yeah. So I know a lot of the younger guys out on tour grew up with launch monitors. You know, a lot of the older guard, Mickelson and Tiger, those guys, you know, they kind of were in the middle of their career when launch monitors became more popular. When did you start really using a launch monitor to kind of work with your equipment, to work on your game? And would you recommend like junior golfers use a launch monitor when they're working on their gear?
Yeah, so the first few times I was kind of doing it was I was a junior back home in Norway, and I was playing a few junior tournaments kind of in Europe, and there'd be some scouts from these different club manufacturers, and I got picked up by TaylorMade at the time, and kind of went through some custom fitting processes with them, and he would put me on the TrackMan, and we would go through some shots. So I advise everyone to get one,
right,
and have the chance to work with one. Obviously, the main thing is you got to understand what you're looking at, because if you're looking at the wrong things, it's not going to help you. So,
what have you learned about gear that you maybe didn't know when you were in college since you turned pro?
Yeah, so I kind of always thought that if I'm hitting a shot, it's always my fault, which it is to a certain extent. But if you have a club that's prone to do a certain thing, it doesn't. If you're trying to hit a slice or cut, and you have a club that's really soft in how it flexes, or it's more shut, all these things make it harder to hit that little cut shot. So it's amazing the things that they can do to maybe help a couple things. I remember a couple tournaments I was struggling with slicing a little bit too much, and obviously that's my swing that's making that occur, but
right,
I just asked them, hey, is there anything that y'all can do to minimize that a little bit? And they could put glue in the head, or they can change the face of the club and different shafts. So it's I won't hesitate to ask anymore.
Last question I try and ask all my tour pros: do you remember your first set of golf clubs that you got as a kid, and what was your favorite club growing up?
I really don't. My dad bought me some clubs when I was 3 years old. I think they were some kind of U.S. Kids type set.
Pretty popular set?
Pretty popular set. But my favorite clubs kind of later, when I was about 11, I had this Ping Rapture driver, this green looking thing.
Yeah,
and
remember that one.
And I would just pound it everywhere, from the fairway, from the rough, and I mean it was unbelievable.
That's awesome. Victor, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks.